Welcome to Track E, the international track. I'm Carl Gerber, Chief Data Officer for Deloitte US, and I will be your track producer. The MIT CDOIQ Symposium continues to expand our global reach. We have an excellent lineup of sessions that will bring you the world view. You are viewing session 17E, Spreading an Analytical Culture at a Multi-Company Conglomerate, Learnings from Across the World, from the Middle East to Latin America. Today, big data, machine learning, and AI are omnipresent concepts in boardrooms. Rightfully so, as these new tools are critical to succeed in today's increasingly digital, connected, complex, and competitive world. In this talk, you will learn about what it takes to build a large-scale analytics practice from scratch at multi-company conglomerates, from the complementary perspectives of Intercorp and Majid Al-Futtaim, leading multi-sector corporations in Peru and the Middle East, respectively, with over $7 billion annual revenue each. Choosing your first battles, building and governing a cross-company single customer view, deploying and scaling skills. Don't miss out. So during this session, we are recording it, and those recordings, together with all of the sessions, will be available to participants together with the presentation materials. This session has both a Q&A and an audience poll. So go to the tabs in Whova, the QA and poll tabs respectively, and place your vote and put your questions in there. If you see a question that you like, vote it up. That way we can be sure to address it. With that, let me introduce Guillaume Thfoin, Head of Data Analytics at Majid Al-Futtaim. Guillaume is Head of Business and Analytics at Majid, the leading shopping mall, communities, retail, and leisure pioneer across the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. In his role, Guillaume is responsible for driving the company's digital and analytics transformation, leading a team of more than 60 people. Prior to joining Majid Al-Futtaim, Guillaume held multiple roles in major consumer packaged goods companies such as SC Johnson and Kraft Foods, analytics company Nielsen, as well as in pure tech company Yahoo. Prior to joining Majid, he led product and strategy at Telerix, a telecom big data monetization startup based in Zurich and New York, where he raised US $25 million from the largest VCs in Europe. Guillaume, over to you.
Thanks for the intro. Hi, everyone. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can see.
Perfect. So I'm very happy to be here, and I'll be co-leading the session with my colleague and friend Ivan. So interestingly, Ivan and I met, I think 6 months ago. We were connected through McKinsey. And the way we connected is because we are leading analytics transformation in very large conglomerates, which are quite similar between retail, tech, finance, and a few other sectors. So those are big, very large companies, typically held by a holding group and sub-businesses. And what we found out is that although we are miles and thousands of miles apart, the way we led a successful transformation is very similar. So that's why we connected, we exchanged a lot, and we thought about creating this session that shows that although we're so different in terms of culture, the way to drive a transformation has been similar, and we're here to share our joint learnings to show that actually it's quite similar, and maybe you can learn from it. So we're going to start with showing a little bit of intro about each of our company, and then moving into how we led the transformation. So myself, I'm working for Majid Al-Futtaim, which is a largely unknown company outside the Middle East, but we're more than $10 billion in revenue. We have more than 300 supermarkets and hypermarkets from the French chain Carrefour. And I think Carrefour is one of the largest retailers in the world. And altogether, we have 23 million customer records in our database. Because with all our brands, we're actually touching so many consumers across the Middle East, across 17 countries. I'll let Ivan introduce his company, Intercorp.
Thanks, Guillaume. Hi everyone, my name is Ivan Herrero, and I'm the Chief Data Officer of Intercorp. Intercorp is the largest Peruvian conglomerate, and we own more than 30 companies and operate in sectors such as finance, retail, healthcare, education, and entertainment. And we have a footprint of almost 4,000 locations. So this is a huge group, but it's very well known in Peru, not so known outside Peru. But as you can see, we operate in very different sectors with a very deep footprint across the country. So we aspire to, if you go to the next slide, please. We aspire to help make Peru the best place to raise a family in Latin America, which is something very inspiring for everyone who works at Intercorp. And that's like a brief introduction to me and to this wonderful group. If we talk about the strategy of the data office, we have this Intercorp's purpose, and then we have our own purpose, which is to leverage our deep knowledge of Peruvian families to improve their quality of life. And we've set up an ambitious goal to be able to generate more than $100 million in EBITDA during the next 5 years. We started in 2019. So from that moment to 2024, we are seeking to achieve this ambitious goal. And for doing so, we have 4 main outcomes that we're seeking. The first one of them is to have all the leaders in our companies to embrace an insight-driven culture. The second outcome is to enable all our companies to define and deploy a data analytics strategy. And the third one is, of course, help them build the capabilities to deploy and to develop that data analytics strategy. The fourth one of these outcomes is to build a single customer view across all our companies, so we can actually be the company, the group that better know the Peruvian families, so we can serve them better. So this is like a brief introduction of the group and the kind of things we're doing, and whether we want to develop a data-driven culture, because we strongly believe that a data-driven culture has the power to accelerate the achievement of the strategic goals of our companies. But not only a data-driven culture helps us achieve the strategic goals of our companies, but also helps us make the company more agile and efficient. And it puts customers at the center of the strategy. So these are 3 goals that I'm sure every company in the world will seek. So this is the reason why we think every company should be defining and deploying a data-driven culture. Guillaume, all yours.
Thanks. And on cue, the way to drive a data-driven transformation or data analytics transformation or even digital transformation, it's all about people. Very often people think about, I'm going to buy some new technology, I'm going to buy, depending on the decade, it's Oracle, SAP, Adobe, name any big technology, and this is going to solve all my problem. But it's not the case. Data transformation is all, or any transformation is about people. So very similar to Ivan, when we started our transformation, I was brought in from Switzerland by the CEO of the company. Majid Futtaim had doubled in size every 5 years for the past 25 years. Very fast growth, very rapid, because you do anything in Dubai and it grows. They used to say, build it and they will come. Now, he knew that in the next 5 to 10 years, competition is much more global. People can order from China, people can order from the US, and God knows I do. So the only way to resist, to keep on being a leader in the future, is by knowing your customers and delighting your customers. And this is through data. So the goal that was set by my CEO in 2016, so almost 5 years ago, is how do we transform the very DNA of Majid Futtaim into an analytics-driven, insights-driven organization, from pure brick and mortar to actually we're going to be leading through data. And that meant we knew very early on that we need to scale our data assets. How do we amass the most amount of data? Because if you have data, if you know your customers, you can delight them. If you can delight them, they will keep on coming back to you, and you will conquer a larger share of wallet. So that's customer centricity was very much at the beginning of our journey. We knew we had the feeling if we do that, similar to the 100 millions of Ivan, we could grow our revenue by 5% per annum and save cost up to 7% per annum. And those were the ambitions we set. So beyond pure financial ambition, we had the mission to change the very DNA of the company. And in doing so, we will be a net talent creator in the region and beyond. And we will be
recording in progress
to Majid Futtaim, because the future war is going to be on talent. If we cannot attract talent, not only data people, we will not be able to sustain this digital transformation. So that was the wide ambition of our analytics journey. Now, for that, we set up our vision. Our vision was to instill a data-driven culture across Majid Futtaim to improve decision-making and to maximize value from insights. So both a cultural change and a financial backed change. So if you think of your value chain for analytics, you always have to start from defining your data strategy. Where are you going to collect data? Get as much data as you can. Set up the right way to work with the team. How are you going to think about your governance model? How are you going to work with the different teams? Then, as you work with different teams, you think about you as the analytics center, you have to define what is the problem, what is the problem space, and you work with the business. What problem do they have, and how do you solve it? So once you have this problem space and solution space, you can start to define, let's solve it. And there are 3 ways to solve it. Typical BI, so business intelligence, anything that you help with insights, report, dashboard, that's human decision. Then when it comes to system suggested action, this is where you put a bit of machine learning to suggest people what they should do. For example, assortment optimization, or AI, which is a system decision. So moving from BI to AI. And finally, of course, you need people, skill set and mindset. So this is what you need to drive a transformation. How do you move a whole organization step by step? Because sometimes you try to do everything at the same time, but it's really hard. So the way I like to, now that I've learned for the past 4 years in my journey, if I were to summarize it, there are 3 things that we need to do as data leaders. One is data set, mindset, and skill set. So it's very easy to remember. So when we think about the data set, first thing and foremost, is start collecting everything, collect data universally, and start cleaning the data early on. Don't worry too much if the data is not clean, collect it. Today, the cost of storing data is irrelevant. I think it's what, $40 per terabyte on Amazon. So you can store as much data as you want. It may become helpful in the future. Now that has to be within the limits of data privacy. So when we started, we spent the first 6 months collecting any data. We went to knock on all the doors, asking people, can you share data? Remember, we're one holding group with 3 main operating companies. Each of them are independent. So initially, they didn't want to share data. They wouldn't want to share data because they thought the holding group is going to spy on me. They're going to know how we're doing. And it was always trying to convince people to smooth them in until the big change, until our CEO actually said to all the other CEOs, I don't need to tell you why I want your data, what I'm going to do with it. Every penny belongs to holding, and every data belongs to holding. If I want, I'm going to give your data to your competitor. And this started when we had a mandate and there was no possibility to resist to giving data to us. So that made a huge change. And that's how now, 4 years later, we actually own and operate the data lake for the whole group. My team, which is the center of excellence, owns and operates the data for the whole group. It's not somewhere in IT, it's in my team. So I have access to all the data of the whole company, and all the customers are centralized into a customer 360 view. The next thing is actually, so that's more about how you're going to get the data. The next thing is set up your infrastructure. The most important thing we did, from the get-go, I told my CEO, I'm not going to be stopping everything and forcing one system for all and ask everybody to give up their system. I'm going to be gradually building the best data platform so that other BUs want to come and put their data into my platform and use their data on my platform. So we started with something pretty simple. We built the first version of, let's say, a data dump on Sybase, so totally on-prem. Started collecting data. Things were pretty archaic. We had some Python script to try and match customer from one business to the other. And then we moved to more solid platform. We've proven our point. Then we built a case for investment. So we moved to stronger technologies such as Informatica for master data management. We moved all our data very quickly to the cloud, which is, we don't have any issues with data residency here in the UAE. So we could have our data stored in the cloud. And then we started to build a more advanced data lake on Hortonworks with Hadoop. And now we're on the third version of it. And we've managed to build it in a way that is faster, better, cheaper. And now the business units are giving up their own data platform to come and host all their data with us, and they build data warehouses on top of our data lake. So that over time has been a quick win, actually a long win. And in doing so, we didn't have the people resist the change. We actually have them up into joining our infra. And the last bit is actually, how do you break the dilemma with IT? Very often, there's a very big conflict between analytics and IT. IT wants to own the data, wants to store the data. So we broke that dilemma very quickly. My team owns and operates the data lake. IT is kind of a two-speed IT system whereby I own technology, I own anything data, and IT owns all the application of the business, the Oracle, the SAP, the ERP, but all of the data, all the consumer data comes to my environment. So that's it for the data set. So a couple of takeaways: collect data very quickly in any format. And in many cases, we have learned that we have found data collected 4 years ago has become very helpful. Bring everything together, but think about the data governance. How are you going to share data across businesses? How are you going to also get to respect consumer privacy? I was lucky that 4 years back when I came from Europe, I was already aware of GDPR. And I started to prepare ourselves to follow those practices. So we started to collect consumer consent from those many years back. And now there's a lot that's going to come in the UAE, so we have to be mindful. Second one is on the mindset, is really start collecting, working with people. Start working with the people, get people to be part of the movement, gain their hearts and their minds. So start with small use cases, show them how data can help them do a better business. So we've been showing, here's your data, here's what it means, here are opportunities that you can tap into. So very often I was creating visual data storytelling, which shows here are the opportunity. Here's where you could make, if you change the way you operate, big difference. Be comfortable with your minimum viable product. So show value quickly. As you show those small use cases, get them to deliver quickly. Don't wait to have the perfect use cases, the perfect implementation to run it. And we've had many cases where we actually failed. And we realized the failure was not because of the data, not because of the algorithm, but how it's been implemented in store. So we had made some recommendations for a planogram. And when they took the planogram, they put it upside down in the store. So the items are at the wrong place, and that's why we failed. So be humble, be fast, and empower the guys who are going to be your future champions. So we found people in the business who are translators. They're not so deep tech, but they're in between. So they could work with us and pull the business. And finally, communicate, communicate, and communicate. Work with everyone. Share their learnings, share the findings, share the success and the failure. So now, 4 years later, when we can say that we've driven $100 million worth of incremental revenue not EBITDA, recognize people, share them, make them the heroes. And finally, skill set. So skill set is really about two things. We need to build a team that's going to drive your transformation. And the role of a data analytics leader is pretty complex because you as an analytics leader, you have to manage budget, you have to find the budget, you have to drive the strategy, the transformation, you have to know enough about data governance, compliance. You need to spend a lot of time hiring data scientists. So it's a pretty hard thing to build a core team. Now, my biggest recommendation is don't go too fast to hire data scientists or the super machine learning engineers. Start with cleaning the data, get some very strong data analysts who are going to clean the data, interrogate the data, and share the data. And then really educate all the teams, build skills through the organization. In Majid at Futtaim, we have created a School of Analytics and Technology to train thousands of our employees into the basics of tech. And that's how, and I'm going pretty fast, might be mindful of time, how we've driven that transformation through data set, mindset, and skill set. And now we are robust enough to have driven gains internally that I'm starting to build a new unit that's going to monetize data externally. Take everything we've done, data, insights, knowledge, and monetize externally. And with that, I'm going to let Ivan ask the next question to transition, because transformation are important. Ivan, I'm going to let you share the screen after that. Ivan?
I think I was on mute.
Yeah, you're on mute.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So we have this question for the audience. What percentage do you think is the failure rate of corporate transformations? And I think, Carl, you have a poll there to share with us.
Yes, Yvonne, you have 14 responses, and the number one response is 60% of corporate transformations fail. That represents 64% of your responses. The second response is 40%. So 60% and 40% are the predominant answers for your poll.
Thank you, Carl. So the audience think that mostly the half of corporate transformations fail. But that would be a great number of failure. So starting a corporate transformation implies a high risk. But the actual answer to that question is that 90% of all corporate transformations fail worldwide. This is a worldwide number. So the risk is even higher than you thought. And the reason why we think this happens is that we really think that we're somehow trying to fix a human problem with technology. And as Guillaume said before, this is a human problem. We're trying to change behaviors. When we're talking about a digital transformation or an analytics transformation, what we're really talking about is about a cultural transformation. And when we talk about culture, we have to understand that the culture is the sum of habits, rituals, and behaviors of a group of people, of the group of people that conforms the company when we talk about the corporate transformation. So this is all about people, how we behave. And we can't change the way people behave just with the use of technology. We need to use technology, but it's not enough. Technology is not enough to fix a human problem. And this is what we are trying to fix. So we've been thinking of which are the three main barriers of the analytical transformation. If we're talking about people, what's that that's stopping us, and how we can overcome these barriers that are like very human-based barriers. And the first barrier is the ego. The ego. You know, it's very hard for a CEO or the C-suite, the top management of companies, admit that they have a problem, that the decisions they've been making during the previous years could have been better, especially if the company has been doing good. It has been, if everything goes good, why change? And this is a hard mental process for everyone to understand that we don't have a data-driven culture. So the first step to start changing, to start making this transformation, is to start by assuming that we don't have it yet. We don't have an analytical culture yet. So this is hard. I've felt it in my skin, and it's a difficult conversation. So the second barrier is resistance to change. We as humans don't like changes. We are creators of habit. So it's very hard for us to change the way we behave, the way we think, the way we make a process. Every time we have to change the way we behave, it's so hard for us as humans because we are somehow hardwired to keep on doing things on the same way. So it's in our nature, and it's very hard for us to change. And the third barrier we've seen is the fear of the unknown. It's almost impossible that someone will embrace something that they don't know. So if we want to make a transformation across our companies, we need people do things differently. But they're not gonna do things differently if they don't know how to do them in a different way. So we have to be very careful, because if we want people to make changes or to make things differently, we have to be sure that they know how to do it, and that they don't fear, they don't fear the possibility of failing. So they have to know the risk and also how to overcome those risks. So here we have the three main barriers we found: the ego, resistance to change, and fear of the unknown. And now I'm gonna share with you some examples of the ways we have found to try to overcome each of these barriers. Starting with the ego, the first suggestion I will give you is stay humble. And this applies for everyone. If you're talking about the CEO or the top management of a company, they have to stay humble to understand that there could be a better way to do things that they've been done during the previous years. So we've been doing okay, we've been doing good, but we could do better. But this applies also for us as data analytics people. We have to be humble. We shouldn't approach our business partners saying, okay, this could have been done better, or I know how to do this better than you. That's not the way to go. We have to stay humble, and we have to approach our business partners by asking them, how can we help you? How can we work together to drive better outcomes out of your efforts? So it's the way we approach the business partners is very important, and we have to stay humble. Another thing that has worked very well for me is try to switch the question, because when you try to make a transformation, when you try to make a change, normally people will are going to ask you why. Why do I have to change? If everything goes well, why do I have to change? So we have to change the question for why not? What's the worst thing that can happen if you try? So try to change the question. Why should I change? To why shouldn't you try to change? At least try it. And give voice to employees. We're not alone. So we shouldn't try to push the transformation all around on our own, because this is not just Guillaume or me saying we have to transform the company. We have to give voice to employees. So the top management, the CEO of the companies can hear all its employees saying that there's a need for change, and that the capabilities that the company have already are not enough to stay competitive in the future, as Guillaume said. So here, for example, we set up a survey for the top management teams of every company in the group. And we asked them some questions about the capability of execution in terms of data analytics in their companies, the mindset and the attitude towards change and leadership. And we proved that based on the results of this survey, the most important thing, the thing that was had proved more correlation to the capability of execution of each company was the attitude toward change of the leaders. So this is a very strong assessment. We prove our leaders that if they didn't show, if they didn't lead by example, their companies will never have the right capabilities of execution. Never mind how much money they put into this transformation. If leaders are not embracing the transformation, the company is not going to move forward at the speed they want. And another thing we did is to generate reflection. We invited 6 international guests to a summit. We call it the Intercorp Data Start Summit. And this was a very selective forum. This is a forum for invited only people. And we have more than 1,060 top managers of the group in this forum participating here, other leaders from other regions of the world telling us how hard the transformation was, but that once they managed to make the transformation, how productive it was, that they could untap millions of dollars in revenue out of this analytics transformation. So this starts generating reflection on the minds of our leaders in terms of, well, now I see that others have managed to do it. Why shouldn't we try at least? And what's the risk we are facing but not trying? Yeah, there is a risk in trying to do it. We could fail, but we will learn and we will try it again, and finally we will manage it. But if we don't try, we are also assuming a risk that our competitors will manage to do this transformation, and we will be less competitive in the future. So this is very important to let our top managers understand that there's a risk on trying, but there's also a risk, and it's a higher risk in not trying it. The second barrier, resistance to change. Our suggestion here is build success cases, as Guillaume said, but for them, first, take your time to understand the business, especially when you work in a very diverse conglomerate as we are at Intercorp. Try to understand the business, their problems, their priorities, before moving on to develop a success case. And try to understand the motivations of the people you're working with. This is not just about the business, it's about people. So try to understand their motivations and try to use those motivations to drive change. And focus on generating value. But as important as generating value is communicating that value. So as Guillaume said, communicate, communicate, communicate. This is not just about generating value, that's very important, but then we have to keep on communicating the value we're driving, to keep on moving the company, to keep on generating traction of this movement, of this transformation across the group. That's very important. And we're talking about making a movement here. If we want to make an analytical transformation, and this is hard to accomplish, especially at the multi-company conglomerate, we have to drive this movement at different levels. So we've set up a corporate committee of data strategy, which is conformed of 30 people from 31 companies. So, and you see, each company of the group is represented here at this committee. But then we have, and this is people from the C-suite. Everyone that has a role in this committee comes from the C-suite of each company of the group. But then we also have this community of practice of data analytics. And we have people of almost 40 ambassadors, which are people that push the transformation at their companies. So it's people with who we work together very closely, because they are like our ambassadors, the people who help us spread the word out in each company. But there are more than people than these ambassadors. We have more than 270 people in this being part of this community and joining our Slack channel. So this is very important. We have people from the operations generating this movement, but also on the strategic level has to join and understand which company is succeeding and what they're doing, so they can copy it and share best practices. This is very important because yes, we're animals of habit, but we're also social beings. So there's something in our nature that stops us from changing, but there's also something in our nature that impulses us towards trying to be part of a movement. So if we manage to bring traction, in the different companies, people from the people that is reluctant to change is going to start seeing that all the people from other companies or from the same company is changing and they're being successful. So they're going to try to change because they also want to be successful. They want to be part of that movement. So that's a very important thing to have in mind. And then it's very important to also have always focus on the business. And this is easy to say, but I hear everyone saying, yeah, we have to focus on the business, but then the first thing they do is talk about data. Yes, we have to gather data, but always try to link it to a business problem. For example, we've built a data governance platform, and we always, when we engage with conversations with the business, we start by thinking of, okay, how are we using the data to drive value for the business? But very often we have to have conversations about definitions of business terms. So we start from them, start aligning the definitions of business concepts between people from different functional areas. So then you're bringing people from different parts of the organization, sitting them in one table and talking about data, but not just data, but we're talking about the business, and try to have a clear definition of the business, of a business concept, then go down to understand which data we have to bring to represent that business concept. So, and this is working very well for us also. And the third barrier is fear of the unknown. When we talk about analytics and data, normally these are terms that are not very well known by the business. So I like to put this example. When we try to build a building, now we're used to the fact that we have to start by digging down if we want the building to be a high building, a skyscraper. It's the same for data, but people are not used yet to that fact. So we have to let them understand that if we want to build a strong data capability, an analytics capability, we need time and we need resources. We need to dig that hole in the ground so we can set up the foundations of our data and analytics tech stack, and then we can start bringing value at scale. So that's important, and bring the data analytics terms to make them easy to understand by business people. So that's what we've done. We set up different courses, some of them especially designed for top leaders, others especially designed for more operating people. And we've trained more than 600 people just in the last 2 years. Then it's very important to help every company of the conglomerate have their own data strategy. And what we understand of a data strategy is something that will enable everyone in the company to reply to these 4 questions. The first one is, what are we going to do? What's the roadmap of initiatives that we are going to develop as part of our data strategy? But as important as what are we going to do is why we're going to do that instead of other things. And this has to be linked, tightly linked to our business goals, to our strategic goals. Then it's very important to understand who is going to be responsible to drive this transformation, and how we're going to ensure that we go through this transformation in a very efficient and effective manner. So we are condensing all our experience from these projects of the last 2 years also with the best practices worldwide in a series of frameworks, which are guides of the different roles that should be part of each different kind of project, and the kind of tasks they have to be involved in. They're very didactic, very practical guides for each kind of project. And then it's important to incubate teams. When we are part of a holding, yes, we have the data office at the core of the holding, and that helps us standardize everything what we do and build a strong culture, a strong way of working. But that's very good, but it's not enough to be as fast as you want to be. So the next step in this transformation is to incubate dedicated teams that are going to be part of each company. And that's where we are now. And then you have to move to the scaling phase, the scaling stage, where each company has its dedicated team, but they have been formed out of the core of the data office. So they have the same culture and they share the same way of working that we have. So we are moving towards a federated model. And that's what we've done. That's the brief introduction of what we've been doing. And to achieve this, we have leveraged two key features. The first one is our inspiring purpose. Make Peru the best place to raise a family in Latin America, which is something that we live and breathe for and inspire us every day. And our outstanding team, which is something that it's impossible to do a successful corporate transformation without an outstanding team. We have now more than 30 people in the data office, and we put a lot of effort of bringing diverse talent from Peru and give them autonomy to pursue our goals. And this is it. We have time for some questions for the audience.
Thank you, Yvonne and Guillaume. We do have some questions that have come in. So you've been talking about building an analytics culture. There's an interest among the audience to understand how you would compare or contrast an analytics culture versus a data culture.
Can give it a shot. So I don't think there's difference between data versus analytics. I don't think there's no two world. Unless somebody talks about the IT world of application and databases who are just processing data. But in my team, whether you're data scientists, data engineers, analysts, etc., there's no difference. Everybody is here to analyze data, to understand data, and to bring it up to the light. So there's no data versus analytics. It's all together.
Yeah, you cannot have an analytics culture without data. Maybe if you want, you could, if you talk about analytics, you're talking more about business and driving value. If you talk just about data, it's easier to just focus on data and get a bit disconnected to the business and to driving value. But it's all the same. It's just a matter of semantics. But
so you both would agree that if it's a matter of supply and demand, data being the supply and demand being the analytics, you can't have one without the other. So it's really one culture. It's a data and analytics driven culture.
Yeah.
Sure.
Great.
You have one without the other, it's a nonsense. It's not gonna bring any value for the business.
So you both are leading organizations and your companies are going down this cultural journey. What advice would you give to audience members who are just beginning their journey? Where should they start first?
I don't know, Guillaume, you want to go first with that?
I can. I think the most important is you need to have, if not the mandate, the support from your executives. If you don't have a mandate and you're a lone soldier who's trying to drive the transformation, it's not going to work. So you need to have exec support for the budget, for opening all the doors. And then you move top down, but also bottom up. So you, as Ivan said, you need to train the team. You have to recognize people. It's both a grassroots revolution and a top-down mandate. So start with defining your mandate and getting the right mandate, and then hire the right people in analytics or data.
Yeah, I think that, as we said, it's all about people. So building up the team is one of the first things you have to do, and is one of the hardest. And also, I would add that looking for data champions, looking for people at the different functional areas of different companies that they really want to make a change. They really want to impose this analytics transformation. They're gonna be your partners, and you will need them along the journey.
So you both mentioned a very important starting point is to have that sponsorship as well as building the team. So how do you attract and retain the right folks to join your initiative? Think about joining from within your firm and also attracting people outside of the firm. You know, there's a war on talent right now. So what's your approach?
It's getting harder and harder, and I think the most important thing you have to have is a clear vision, a compelling vision of what you want to build, and try to link that vision not just to business outcomes, but to social outcomes, to as we have, how we can improve the lives of Peruvian families by knowing them better and then serving them better. So I think that's very important. And also building a culture of like where everyone can express themselves. So psychological safety, I think, is very important to retain people. And don't tell them what to do. Tell them what to achieve, and give them the autonomy to seek the way, to find the ways towards that goals. I think that's very important. That's something that's working very well for us.
Yeah, it's quite similar for myself, and the difference that Dubai and the Emirates is a very small country. So we the way we found a way to work is have small nucleus of teams. That's why my team is about 35 people in Dubai, but now I'm going to be building my offshore center in India. So to attract, retain, and develop my core team is really about exciting them. First, you have to, the salaries are the hygiene. They're not something that really motivate people. But if you have a mission, a vision, the technologies where people can learn and develop themselves, they will come and they will most likely stay. So, and then have a fertile ground for people to learn, to collaborate. The way I've built is I have, you can come into the holding and then rotate, go to the business, work with the business, spend 1 year or two within the business, and then come back to holding. And we've seen people growing that way. And we have defined a career path for tech talent because we are a very brick and mortar organization. So we've defined a career path for tech talent with our own employee value proposition. Now, those guys are going to be leading team who are going to be based in India. And now I'm setting up my offshore center, not that of a vendor, but my own teams in India. So it's going to take another couple of years. But that means I would have for every employee in Dubai, 5 to 10 employees in India or in Poland or elsewhere. So you have to find how do you, what talent do you build, buy, and borrow? So you build in-house, you create, you reskill through the School of Analytics and Technology. Which one do you buy? Which one do you attract to come to Dubai? And the ones that you borrow, you leave them in offshore location.
All right. Both of you are on very ambitious journeys with your companies. What would you say is your biggest success so far? And what would be a key learning that you would like to share as well?
Well, success for myself is the team I've built. I'm very happy to have built a team of about 30 plus people. We're working well together. Many of them have been here for more than 4 years, 3 to 4 years like myself. So when you think of data analytics, typically people stay a year or two in a company maximum, but with my leadership, we've been here quite some time. Then we've actually managed to transform the organization. Majid was largely unknown 4 years ago in terms of tech analytics, and now we are a lot more progressive. And I think the next step is that we've managed to stabilize the internal value creation. And the next wave is the external monetization. So that's very exciting. Those are the big successes. Learnings is be mindful what you start to hire for, so or who you hire. I hired the best data scientist at the beginning, and that was a mistake. I had the best data scientist in Dubai, and I had no data, no use cases. So that was a pretty costly mistake. So plan your hiring and plan your teams accordingly.
Newest member of the team, I see.
Yeah, that's AI. It's animal intelligence.
Yvonne, same
Yeah,
question to
I
you.
agree with Guillaume. I think building a competitive team is a very hard task, and it's getting harder and harder. So I'm very proud of my team. I'm very proud of the things we're doing, and I'm very proud of having like a 0% attrition for the 2 years and a half that I've been leading the analytics strategy of Intercorp. And I think that one of the learnings is that you have to focus on change management. It's very easy to start by just working on technology, working on success cases, but change management is very important. And when you find people that don't want to change, you have to think of like what's stopping them to do what they should be doing. They're very professional people. They're there for because they're good at what they do. So instead of getting frustrated, try to understand them. Try to understand their motivations and try to leverage them towards to drive that change. But this is all about people, and so try to understand motivations instead of getting frustrated or shouting, because that's not gonna work. Just understand them and work with them. I think that's one of the learnings.
All right. Well, thank you both, Yvonne and Guillaume, for telling your story and sharing it with our audience. And with that, this concludes our session.